Hey, mahal everyone! Welcome back again to the Broadway Saiyan YouTube channel. I am your host 40, and we are back with another video on Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia, focusing again on the global version of Opera Omnia. In today's video, I'm bringing you guys part 6 of my series Weapon Passives 15 CP versus 35 CP. So let's go ahead and get started with part 6 of this series. So again, friendly reminders when watching. The video series is designed to help newer players and free-to-play players understand which weapon passive can best help a character function in the event that you do not have both weapons or passives on that character. It'll also help you understand which weapon passive would be more ideal. Let's say if you're on a budget, especially if you're a newer player or free-to-play player and you won't have every weapon released in your inventory. Again, this is not going to cover the World of Illusions event 15 CP weapons, such as, for example, the new one that we got for Squall, or Cloud's 15 CP Crimson Edge, or Bartz's 15 CP Noir Caliber. The reason why is because those weapons do not directly impact the character's abilities, and they're very situational for the most part, and some of them are actually pretty good, but I still feel like it's not really fair to compare them to the actual weapons that impact their abilities. And then also, we're not going to be covering EX weapons, as I'm going to be saving that for another series once we actually get EX weapons live in Global. So for part 6, we're going to start off with Onion Knight. So let's go over his abilities. Blizzard Combo, 5-hit Ice Magic Brave attack with a damage modifier of 24% for each hit, with a grand total of 120%. It grants him 1 stack of his unique buff called Sage and removes his unique buff called Ninja. Sage grants him attack up and can be stacked up to 3 times. At Sage 1, it's at 10%, Sage 2, 20%, Sage 3, 70%. Multi-hit is his second ability. This is going to be a 6-hit melee brave attack, 16.67% per hit, up to 6 times, and it is at a total of 100%. It grants him 1 stack of his unique buff Ninja and removes his unique buff Sage. Ninja raises speed and can be stacked again up to 3 times, just like Sage. Ninja 1 is small speed, Ninja 2 is medium speed, Ninja 3 is large speed, and this ability has a high turn rate. His 15 CP Ancient Sword passive increases Blizzard Combo's damage modifier, so now each hit is dealing 36% for a grand total of 180%. It also grants him 2 stacks of Sage rather than 1 this time. His 35 CP White Slayer passive increases multi-hits damage modifier and further lowers its action delay. The damage modifier on this ability now is 30% for each hit, with a grand total of 180%. It also grants him 2 stacks on Ninja rather than 1, and this time it also gives him a self-buff of attack up 30% and max brave up 20% for 3 turns. So what is the verdict on which weapon passive is better between those two? So if you happen to have one or the other on Onion Knight, he can actually function decently, and back when he only had his 15 CP available, he actually wasn't bad of a choice of a character, especially because Sage does increase his damage output with the attack up. However, his 35 CP giving him now additional buffs to attack and max brave puts it at a definite edge compared to the 15 CP. So his 35 CP passive definitely is better, but if you still happen to have only his 15 CP passive, being a free-to-play or newer player, he's still fairly good. Next character we're going to cover is Firion. So his first ability is Blood Weapon. It's a 2-hit melee brave plus HP attack, each hit dealing 10% for a grand total of 20% on the damage modifier. It recovers his own HP equal to 55% of the HP damage that he deals. However, that does cap out at 15% of Firion's own max HP. His second ability is called Seize Attack, so this is going to be a 1-hit range brave attack. The damage modifier is 120%. He does have a Seize Attack Plus, which is going to be a 1-hit stronger range brave attack. The damage modifier on that is 180%. He also self-buffs himself a max brave up of 40% for 3 turns. However, in order to use Seize Attack Plus, Firion does require his max HP to be at least 50% or greater. So his 15 CP Wingsword passive increases his Wingsword's his first ability, his Blood Weapon, damage modifier. So now his damage modifier is at 20% for each hit for a grand total of 40%. The heal cap is also increased to 25% of Firion's own HP. His 35 CP Defender passive, so we don't have his 35 CP yet, but we will be seeing it very soon in Global. It increases Seize Attack and Seize Attack Plus's damage modifier. So now the damage modifier on Seize Attack is at 160%, and then his Seize Attack Plus is actually at 240%, which is pretty huge. He also has an increase to the max brave up to himself to 80%, which is again a large amount. And then he also raises everyone's brave by 100% based on his attack, And then he also self-buffs himself a Brave regen now based on 80% of his initial Brave for 6 turns. So wow, a lot on his 35 CP. So the verdict is, Furia's 15 CP gives him survivability, and his Seize attack on its own without the passive does have a fairly high damage modifier on its own. However, once we get his 35 CP, it's going to allow him better buffs and acts as a Brave battery to the party, as well as giving him a much better potency as a stronger Brave Shaver. So hands down, 35 CP passive is definitely better than the 15 CP, but if you only have him with his 15 CP, he's still fairly good because his 35 CP already has a naturally high damage modifier on it. Next character is going to be Laguna. He was definitely a great debuffer during the early portions of the global version of the game. So his first ability is Grenade. This is a one-hit range AoE Brave attack with a damage modifier of 30%. It inflicts a 30% defense down for 2 turns and small speed down for 3 turns to all targets, and he also self-buffs Laguna, attack up 20% for 4 turns. His second ability, Shotgun, is a one-hit range AoE Brave attack with a damage modifier of 70%. It inflicts 30% attack down for 3 turns to all. His 15 CP Galbadian Machine Gun passive increases Grenade's damage modifier, so now it's dealing 40%. It also extends the 30% defense down to 4 turns. His 35 CP Regulus passive, so we don't have this yet, but again, we're going to be seeing this weapon coming out very soon. It changes his Shotgun command to Shotgun Plus, and this time he also inflicts HP damage to a single target after he deals the AoE Brave damage. It increases the damage modifier on this ability, so now it's at 100%. It also increases the attack down debuff to 40% and extends its duration to 5 turns, also granting Laguna a physical attack up to by 20% to himself for 5 turns. So what is the verdict on these two passives? So again, during the early stages of the game, Laguna was proven to be quite effective with just his 15 CP. However, once his 35 CP is out for global, it's going to be hands down the better passive with the other factors in it, especially because he gets that increase to his physical attack. And attack down is definitely a lot better as far as being able to take damage from the enemy compared to his other debuffs. So definitely the better passive to go for. And the last character we're going to be discussing in part 6 is Steiner. My boy Masilento Games is main, his favorite character. So his first ability is Power Break. This is going to be a 3-hit melee Brave plus HP attack with a damage modifier of 26.67% on each hit for a grand total of 80%. It has a medium chance to inflict a 20% attack down to the target for 2 turns, and whenever you're attacking a humanoid target, you're going to be dealing more damage with this ability. His second ability, Spellblade, is a one-hit fire melee Brave attack with a damage modifier of 120%. Greater damage is going to be inflicted again to humanoid targets, so he's the humanoid killer. His 15 CP Runeblade passive increases his Power Break's damage modifier, so now each hit is dealing 40% for a grand total of 120%. The chance to inflict that 20% attack down is now increased to a large, and it extends the duration to 3 turns. His 35 CP Diamond Sword passive increases his Spellblade's damage modifier, so now it's at 180%. It also self-buffs Steiner, defense up 40%, and Brave regen based on 30% of his initial Brave for 6 turns. So what's the verdict on these two weapon passives? So the 35 CP for sure is going to have the better stats because that's just natural for a 35 CP. However, while it does have the damage, the higher damage with his Spellblade, because Spellblade is a Brave shaving ability, and the nice self-buffs, I actually feel like Steiner's 15 CP passive has the better utility, because one, you're dealing HP damage, it's more hits, it's 3 hits, and you're also inflicting a debuff to attack on the target. It is a chance, but with that 15 CP, it's increased to large, so it's a fairly good amount to inflict that debuff. Alright guys, well that is going to be it for part 6 of my series, Weapon Passives 15 CP versus 35 CP. Again, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you did, consider hitting that subscribe button. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell, that way you are notified when I post a new video. And also give this video a like and let me know in the comment section below what you think. And also any other suggestions that you'd like to see as far as DFFOO content. Alright guys, I am 40 the Broadway saying, stay tuned for the next video, and mahal everyone.